Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today I thought it would be cool to make a video comparing the Sub 2000 to the new Smith & Wesson folding pistol carbine, which shares some resemblances and some differences to the old school KelTec line. You know, KelTec's done a great job of solidifying the Sub 2000, and it's done quite well for them, and it makes sense that Smith & Wesson would come out with a product like this. So we're going to compare the two. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at Sonoran Desert Institute for supporting our videos. If you're looking for a career in gunsmithing technology or anything in the firearms realm, they're definitely your go-to source. They've got some awesome instructors, great curriculum. They've got drone programs. You can learn how to reload, all sorts of various gunsmithing tasks. So if you want to take your career to the next level, check out Sonoran Desert Institute, SDI. Tell them we sent you. Use the link down below so that they know that we sent you. And a big thanks to SDI for supporting our videos. All right, so the Sub 2000's been out for quite some time. Oddly enough, I actually have a Gen 1 here to show you. This is my old Gen 1 Sub 2000. And the cool thing about this gun is this is the only rifle I own that I actually know the serial number by heart. This one's E4000. It's got a short little 4-digit serial number. This is one of the first Sub 2000s ever made. KelTec came out with a gun called the Sub 9 back in the day that was an all alloy and steel version. They were kind of expensive to make, and they didn't make them for very long, but they are a cool, you know, departure. The Gen 1 Sub 2000, like this one, uses a lot of polymer construction. Now, this is not the factory finish. This is Norwegian green Duracoat, and of course, you can see my Duracoat is holding up great. I Duracoated this particular Sub 2000 about 10 years ago. It's holding up just fine. As you can see, the Sub 2000 has a charging handle here below this tubular receiver extension, right? So it's got a big old honking mainspring, a big old heavy bolt, okay, and a generally simplified form of construction. It's essentially a modern Sten in a lot of ways, right? You've got a tube with a big heavy bolt, a heavy spring, a basic charging handle that you get to here from the bottom. You pull it up and to the right, and it locks the bolt to the rear, okay? You take the trigger guard and push this forward, and the gun folds. That was one of its most distinctive features when it first came out, was that it was a folding gun. And this particular one takes Glock magazines. KelTec over the years has made this gun in a variety of different grip sizes, different magazine types. They even have an integral suppressed version that they make now, which we want to get one in for a video for y'all, but I don't have that particular gun yet. Later on, they came out with the Gen 2. The Gen 2 is similar to the original Gen 1, but there's a few things that they changed. One being, it was pretty much a complete overhaul of the original Gen 1 design. The Gen 2 has a much more robust locking lever for the folding action, right? Whereby the early one just has a real basic kind of little wire looking little peg that you have to push. It's kind of crude. They improved the stock design considerably. It's worth noting as well that on the Gen 2 Sub 2000 that they did away with the knurled bolt handle, which I thought was kind of odd. I like the knurled bolt handle on the Gen 1, but they went to a smooth bolt handle. All right, and that's probably just to ease production costs and make the gun more affordable. They did completely change the ergonomics and the texturing on the polymer frame and everything like that. The sights are greatly improved. You actually have a alloy front sight post, or it might be steel actually. I'd have to put a magnet to that. It might be steel. But they added an actual metal front sight with complete adjustability, okay? And it's threaded 1/2 by 28, so you can put your suppressors and all your goodies on there. This one also has a standard pick rail through and throughout on the bottom and top of the handguard, and some M-lock accessory slots, whereby on the Gen 1 you can see smooth side. All right, no rails, really crude iron sights. This is an early gun with a really early stepped barrel, but it's a good one. You know, the Sub 2000 has not been without its little teething issues and things like that, but generally speaking, over the years, they've held up quite well. You're talking a 9mm PCC that folds that you can get for probably around $400 to $450 in that ballpark, which is a pretty attractive option for the money if you're trying to stay within a pretty good budget. Now Smith & Wesson came out with the FPC. Now you can see this gun departs from the design of the Sub 2000 immediately. Just by picking it up, you can tell it's not a KelTec. This one folds to the side instead of over the top. The folding action is accomplished by this lever over here, okay? So you can see this one folds like a hinge, just like that, and it locks shut, and you've got a 9mm PCC that also folds. On this one, the charging handle is completely ambidextrous. So you don't have just that where it locks to one side. On this one, it's more like a T-handle like you would see on an AR in a way, because the mainspring, again, on this gun is extremely stout, even compared to the Sub 2000, which has a pretty beefy mainspring and a big heavy bolt. This gun also is designed very similarly with a large heavy bolt, a big heavy mainspring, and you gotta break your bare mints out to get that thing back. Now, one thing that Smith & Wesson added on this particular gun that sort of departs from the original KelTec design is they also added a much beefier stock. So you have a much better stock with room to put your additional magazines in here. So you can carry 3 magazines on the rifle. Now that does also add a considerable amount of girth to the stock. So if you're getting this gun as a backpack gun or something like that, that's something you probably want to pay attention to, that it is going to have a larger profile in a backpack as a result, but you do have the added benefit of having a much more comfortable stock that's easier to shoot, as well as additional storage for your magazines. Now this particular gun is set up to take Smith & Wesson M&P magazines, and this is a 24-shot factory M&P magazine that they ship with the gun. That's got a nice, flat, generally low feature to it in terms of the height, whereby if we take the Sub 2000 with the 30-round mag in it, now that sticks out a little bit further. Now you can get a 24-round Glock mag to put in this to keep it a little bit more slim. Some people opt for those little slim mags because you can see with the big mag sticking out of the bottom of the Sub 2000, that might be a little bit more difficult to stuff away in a backpack. Now if you don't have a mag in it, that folds up pretty compact. So I think in terms of the compact nature of both the gun designs, I'm still going to opt for the KelTec. All right, but let's finish discussing the Smith & Wesson. You're going to pay more for the Smith & Wesson, a considerable amount more, like $200 or $300 more than the KelTec. So it's important that you know what you're getting for that kind of money. Well, for one, you are getting a 1/2x28 threaded barrel. You're getting an M-lock rail through and throughout with plenty of rail space up on top, whereby on the Gen 2 Sub 2000 you have rails top and bottom. Now, here's where the Smith & Wesson probably gets a few points above the KelTec. One is the optics compatibility. So with the Smith & Wesson, I can mount an optic on here, and when it folds, okay, I don't have to worry about the optic being in the way when this gun folds. Whereby on the Sub 2000, okay, sure. Yeah, I can put an optic on top of this gun right here if I want. But what happens when I fold it? Okay, well when I fold it, now it's not going to shut all the way, right? Because the optic will not allow the folding mechanism to clear. So really, if you're going to run a Sub 2000 and you want the maximum compact nature of the gun as it's intended, then that means you're pretty much stuck to running iron sights. Just something to consider. So if you're wanting an optic on a folding PCC, then the Smith & Wesson is probably going to be a little bit better option. All right, so another important thing I want to talk about is weight, okay? On the Gen 1 Sub 2000, it comes in at 4 pounds, 6.4 ounces unloaded. That's actually with an empty 30-round magazine as you see it here. We just weighed it just as that. On the Gen 2 with an empty magazine, the weight came in at 4 pounds, 9.7 ounces. All right, we got a little bit more weight on the Gen 2 from the metal front sight post and probably a few component changes. And I could be wrong, but I swear that the receiver extension and the barrel and the receiver nut on the Gen 2 feels a little heftier and thicker than what they put on the original OG Gen 1s. I could be wrong about that, but it feels heftier. And that's probably giving you a little bit of extra weight. All right, here's the kicker. The FPC, how much does it weigh? It weighs 5 pounds, 11.9 ounces unloaded. Obviously, we subtracted the weight of the ACSS Cyclops prism sight because that's obviously not included on the gun, but we did subtract that weight, so that does not include the weight of the optic. That's the empty gun, 5 pounds, 11.9 ounces. So you can see that the FPC is certainly a heftier gun. But to be fair, it is very well made. And I have to say, in terms of quality, overall, that the FPC definitely screams quality. It's a nice piece. It's very well made and everything like that. And I'm glad that Smith & Wesson sort of acknowledged, hey, that a folding 9mm PCC is a thing and that we want to have our own entry into this market. And they did so, I think, with a fair bit of class. Like they took something, an idea that was the sub 2000, and they kind of made it their own, which I like. But I also understand that, KelTec over the years has done a fantastic job with these sub 2000s, and they have not been without their quirks and teething issues, and also just in general, KelTec products, they always design such cool stuff. And it seems like sometimes they might have a few issues that they have to kind of work out, but one thing I can say is they always get it figured out, and they're very good about taking care of their customers. KelTec's always had great customer service. So I think, which one do I prefer? Well, look, here's the thing. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions about what you might like between the two. If you're wanting something a little bit higher end with a little bit more features, a little bit better build quality, maybe you just have to have a red dot on your PCC, well then obviously the FPC is probably going to be the gun for you and give you a little bit more bells and whistles and a little bit more friendly usability over the sub 2000 for only a marginal amount of money more. I mean, I think I've seen these things selling for like $5.99, $6.99, something like that. So they are more expensive than the sub 2000, but not by much. Now, with that being said, if you're on a budget and you don't mind running irons and you want the full compact nature, especially in something lightweight, and you're really concerned about weight in a pack, which you should be, because ounces add up in a pack, right? Then obviously the sub 2000 is going to be a great choice for you. The Gen 2 does have much better sights with better adjustability, so if you are going to just opt to not run a red dot on this gun, then you can obviously adjust these iron sights much better, and the gun can wear a suppressor. This is 1/2x28 threaded, whereby the Gen 1 is not threaded, okay? So I have seen some Gen 2s that are not threaded, so if you are going to buy a Gen 2 KelTec sub 2000, make sure it's a threaded model if that's indeed what you want. And remember, just because a gun is threaded doesn't mean you have to put a suppressor on there. You can always throw a little brake or something or some type of a muzzle device on there if you wish. So hopefully that cleared up any confusion that some of you might have. I would say the ergonomics of the FPC are quite good. Much more comfortable grip, much better cheek weld with the stock. Right, it feels more like a legitimate rifle when you unfold it. So that's one vote I can say on the FPC. It's going to feel more familiar to you. It's going to feel more like a rifle. Whereby the sub 2000, while it's a great utility tool, it does have a very crude and utilitarian kind of feel to it. This is not meant for the comfort of the operator, okay? This gun is meant to be a usable and available tool in a tight space, and to do that on a shoestring budget. So in that way, I think the KelTec sub 2000, those are where the merits are of this particular gun. I personally prefer the Gen 2 sub 2000 just for cost and for its utilitarian flavor and for being very compact. And I like the Glock magazine compatibility. Remember, the FPC takes Smith & Wesson M&P mags, which is not a problem. I would imagine that they will offer a Glock mag fed version at some point. KelTec went through the very same thing, right? When they initially released the sub 2000, they had it in Glock magazines. And there was a big outcry from the public. They wanted, oh, but what about my Smith & Wesson Model 59 magazine? What about my Beretta M9 magazine? What about my SIG such and such? So now, KelTec makes sub 2000s that accept so many different types of magazines. So that's another vote towards the KelTec, in my opinion, is that if you are one of those kind of persons that maybe you have to have a certain mag that's not a Glock mag, just know that the KelTecs are available in a wide variety of different magazines that they will accept. So, and different calibers. You can get them in 40 cal. I think they've even done some 357 SIG sub 2000. So there's a lot of neat stuff out there. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. I really wanted this to just be kind of a direct comparison, apples to apples, between these guns, and to give you some of my thoughts on some of the high points and low points of each gun. You know, there's always going to be detractors from any gun design, no matter how good or bad it might be. I think both of them are great. The FPC is a cool gun. I love the sub 2000. Whichever one you decide to go with, you're not going to be disappointed. They're great. I will say overall that the build quality on that Smith is maybe a little bit better, but for the price though, I think they're well in line with each other in terms of what you're getting for the money. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got many more videos on the way. I promised when we did our original range video on the FPC that I would do a comparison video. So here's your comparison video. We'll probably cut a very similar video on the KSG and compare it to the Smith & Wesson shotgun as well. So have yourselves a great day. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.